When I saw the trailer for Atlas, I was pretty intrigued. It's very rare that Netflix impresses me with one of their trailers because most of the time they just give away the entire plot, but it really caught my eye. I love the sci-fi genre, so I was pretty set on watching this. Reading some letterboxd reviews afterwards, as one does, I saw what I expected from Netflix movies. People weren't loving this. Atlas is about a data analyst, Atlas Shepard, who has a deep distrust of AI and has spent the majority of her life searching for Harlan, an AI robot created by her mother, Val Shepard, who was created to help humanity, but realizes that humanity is beyond saving and decides he wants to wipe them out of existence. He kills her mother and escapes. 28 years later, and they give this number specifically, the government has located Harlan, so Atlas goes on an expedition with the military to some distant planet to capture him. Everything goes wrong, because of course, and she gets stuck in an AI mech suit with low battery life. So they have neural links which enable humans to connect with mech suits, but Atlas is so distrusting of AI that she refuses to use the neural link. So she spends the movie learning to trust again, eventually defeating Harlan and avenging her mother's death. It was definitely your generic cynic learns to trust again movie, but in my opinion, it wasn't as bad as I expected. I actually did sort of enjoy it. If I had to rate it, probably I'd say 2.5 stars out of 5. There were a lot of problems with it, but there were some things I did like, which I'll talk about first. And just a fair warning, there will be spoilers for Atlas and Big Hero 6, which I will mention later. So first is the action. As far as action, there were some good moments, even though most of the movie is one long chase scene. I thought there was some good tension, and it kept me wondering how she would make it out, especially since she spends most of the movie refusing to sync with the mech suit, who is called Smith, which, by the way, is her only way to survive on this planet because not only is there no oxygen, but the machine is literally not effective unless it links with a human. This film also did a good job of establishing the rules and limitations of humanity in this post-apocalyptic sci-fi world. Right away, I knew what kind of world this was and what the possibilities of the technology were, so for the rest of the movie, everything felt believable. The opening scene was really nice too, especially since it's an action movie. It starts with them capturing an AI robot that they've been trying to capture for ages, who also happens to be an agent of Harlan. I really liked it when I was watching, and I thought it was a great start to the movie. Sterling K. Brown is also in this movie, and I love practically everything he's in, so seeing him was just a real treat. I do feel like his character did not get enough screen time, which is a perfect segue to talk about what didn't work for me. First, the villain. I feel like Harlan, played by Simu Liu, also does not have nearly enough screen time. He's supposed to be the scary AI villain, but you hardly see him, and because of this, he just wasn't scary enough. We learned that he was originally created by Val Shepard, Atlas's mother, but he turned on them and went evil when Atlas, who was a child, messed with the Neuralink. This is when Harlan realizes that humanity is beyond saving. He kills her mom and controls the other AI, using them as his army against humanity. At a certain point, I was like, this is basically Age of Ultron, which is infinitely better than this, but I digress. From then on, she carried the guilt of what happened to her mother, and she does not trust any robots. And she especially does not want to use the neural links that enable humans to pair with the new AI mech suits. It makes sense why Atlas wouldn't trust Harlan, but in my opinion, just hearing about how awful Harlan is instead of actually seeing how awful he is make him a completely non-menacing villain. Had we seen more of the awful stuff he did in real time, we would have gotten a sense of the danger he posed. Aside from Atlas's constant warnings about him, everything we see him do is mostly through flashbacks and a montage at the beginning that just says, hey, he's really dangerous. It's a prime example of not following the show don't tell rule. Sure, the rules of filmmaking aren't always rigid, but it's easy to see when a movie fails to do this. The movie then becomes the characters talking about danger rather than the audience feeling the characters' danger with them. There were certainly moments of tension where I wondered how Atlas would survive, even though it was very obvious she would link with her mech suit eventually. It was more of a question of how much longer do we have to see J-Lo suffer before she just bites the bullet and links with the mech suit. But particularly with Harlan, he just felt like a guy in all black, hiding somewhere with a great plan that we're told is awful but never shown. And obviously the concept of wiping out all of humanity is was pretty terrible, but because he wasn't on screen that much, he didn't get to do that many villainous things, and therefore I didn't feel any tension that he might actually get close to wiping out humanity. Like, I just knew he wouldn't succeed because the movie can't end that way. Harlan didn't seem like that much of a threat. Like, I genuinely felt like they should have been able to stop him at any point, but they just couldn't for the plot. It would have been nice to see the preparation for his evil plan. Like, maybe he has to kill a bunch of people in order to get some key piece of technology. That actually would have been a good way to tie in the chess piece that Atlas carries around. It's literally just because she used to play chess with Harlan when she was a kid. And I get it, like, it's her holding on to this chess piece to remind her of this grudge that she's holding on to. But maybe there could have been another way to tie it in. For example, maybe Harlan was searching the galaxy for a piece of technology that he thought couldn't be found on Earth, but plot twist, it was on Earth and her mother hid it inside this chess piece or something. And then it could symbolize that Atlas was always the missing piece to her mother's research or something like that. Or maybe Harlan has to sap resources from the planets he hides on, and he leaves a string of planets depleted of natural resources and destroying all extraterrestrial life in his path. I don't know, just something to make me feel afraid instead of just knowing I should be. The second thing that didn't really work for me was the emotional moments. I just felt like it was an overload of sentimental moments. It felt forced and seemed like it was trying to make me feel all this emotion that just wasn't there. The guilt Atlas had over what happened with her mom was enough because it relates to the character and why she is so mistrusting of AI, specifically her mech suit Smith. In the end, there was too much emphasis placed on her relationship with the robot, as if to make the audience care about the robot itself. It took away from the true heart of the story, which, in my opinion, is not Alice's attachment to Smith, but it's her healing and transformation that I think are the true heart of the story. Or at least could have been. Now, there are plenty of films and television shows that do a good job of creating love for robot characters with the audience. For example, Big Hero 6. The reason why it works in Big Hero 6 is because Baymax is a reflection of Hero's older brother Tadashi, who died in a fire. Baymax was created as a way to make healthcare better and more accessible around the world, and he ended up protecting Hero on Tadashi's behalf. Over time, Hero becomes attached to Baymax, and so does the audience, because Baymax directly influences Hero's healing from the grief of losing his brother. So when Baymax sacrifices himself for Hero, it works emotionally because it's like losing Tadashi all over again. In Atlas, Smith also sacrifices himself to save Atlas, but he has no emotional attachment to her and therefore not to the audience either. Similar to Big Hero 6, Smith is reborn in a sense, but it's not as impactful because the audience doesn't have a reason to care for Smith other than the fact that he saved Atlas's life. But it could have been any robot that saved her. There's no reason to believe that Smith specifically is the only mech suit that could have gotten through to her. In my opinion, this only needed a simple fix. When Smith goes online, Atlas chooses the default voice. What if Smith's default voice was the voice of her mother, Val? This way, it's like her mother is helping her through everything, which would work amazingly, especially since her mother was the leading scientist behind the neural links that they all use. When the robot sacrifices itself to save her, it would be a mirror of the past, and the audience can see that Atlas will, in a way, have to grieve her mother all over again. Then when the mech suit comes back online, it means more because, in a small way, Atlas has now gotten her mother back. I think that would have worked a lot better, and all the crying Atlas does when Smith sacrifices himself would have felt more appropriate. Also, the name Atlas, I just feel like they could have picked a better one. It seems like they're trying to be cool, but anyway, I'm just nitpicking now. Overall, Atlas is an okay movie to sit down and watch with the family and have some popcorn. Definitely not groundbreaking, but good enough. The fact is, some movies are just blowing things up and killing robots, and there's nothing wrong with that. So anyway, thanks for watching. Until next time, bye!